Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to LEGO MARVEL Avengers. You know, it just occurred to me, it's been quite a while since I've played a LEGO game.
Until we can find Ultron, I
So,
don't have a lot else to offer.
I may have painted myself in a corner here with committing to a very long game. I kind of had forgotten about the fact that LEGO games do tend to be 60 hours plus if you try to play them to 100%. Here we have the surprise Hawkeye has a family.
I won't find him here.
Now, what does Thor need answers for?
Hey guys,
We don't know that story.
Cold out, huh? I don't suppose you'd mind chopping some firewood for later. I think Clint hid the axes around here somewhere so the kids wouldn't find them.
So, the general idea that Hawkeye has this whole family secreted away was kind of a nice twist, but it only really had a payoff. I would say that was a nice LEGO design for a tire swing. You don't see that very often. And if you see 4 bikes here, I guess they're implying that there's at least 2 kids and 2 adults riding bikes. There's some LEGO stuff certainly here, but then there is also still a lot of non-LEGO stuff. And that compounds as a problem when you have a lot of things you need to break. This feels like this might just be an open world section, which kind of makes the whole game feel like that there are several open world sections. That's a weird sound effect. That is totally the wrong sound effect for that surface.
Yeah, that door gets stuck once in a while. Not that I'm questioning Clint's skills as a builder or anything, but you might need to force it off.
And so you have a lovely LEGO section here where the camera panned directly to what you're supposed to do. The game pointed you directly where you were supposed to be. This would have been a great section to do. See, of course, Captain America there is the one with the skills, so he should be able to jump up here. There we go. And there is something nice to just the idea of having a LEGO level that is more just like a LEGO City level, and not having to really be centered around the idea of defeating some giant evil villain. This is the kind of falling action level that we should have seen in several places, even if you did have to artificially create them.
Pulled us apart like cotton candy. You walked away, all right? Got a problem? I don't trust a guy without a dark side. Call me old-fashioned. Well, let's just say you haven't seen it yet.
Let's see if I stand on this. If we get, yeah, you still get a weird sound effect. That's weird. Yeah, it feels kind of like there's a whole open world here with several collectibles and several LEGO trees that I assume you could have probably broken anyways, but maybe not. And now we have a different kind of mini game, which, like, I don't mind a different type of minigame. In fact, I very much appreciate it. But it is so incredibly late to have this be introduced. Even for the Age of Ultron, if we just make the assumption that the Age of Ultron levels were supposed to be the sequel to LEGO MARVEL Avengers, it still feels very
Sorry.
low.
Clint said said you wouldn't mind. Our tractor doesn't seem to want to start at all. I thought maybe you might,
Yeah, the only real payoff here is that in game that you see the family, and honestly, it would have been better if more characters had more people they cared about. Captain America only has Agent Carter, who's dead in almost all of the movies. Iron Man, Tony Stark, does have a sequence in one of his movies, I think Iron Man 3, where he cares about some people, but then he kind of forgets about them too. But Tony Stark does care about Spider-Man and Pepper Potts, assuming they can maintain the use of Spider-Man as a character. And Bruce Banner, of course, kind of only cares about the Black Cat character, whatever, or I forget her name. You have some characters like Ant-Man that get introduced very, very late in the series, past the story, and he kind of has his own individual story, and then it gets hard to integrate that section with those people with the current collection of Avengers. And I think after Endgame they really left it open to basically retire the entire first generation of the Avengers and replace them with newer, different actors, newer, younger actors that will sign on for a 5-year deal. And that's kind of the problem of making movies in general, is that you need to be able to sign somebody on for at least 2 sequels if you're planning on making any kind of long-running cinematic universe. And most actors don't want to do that. For instance, the actor who played Kylo Ren, had he signed on simply to play Kylo Ren for those 3 movies and not done anything else, you would, in my opinion, not have seen any of his actual talent. Because in movies that he's played that aren't Star Wars movies, he's done a much better job. Midnight Special, I think, is probably a great example of that, and I think he's probably better cast as a FBI analyst, computer nerd in Midnight Special than as a angsty teenage, not Jedi, but Sith character. Maybe Iron Man just can transform. Let's see. Oh yeah, he can. So we now have the Hulkbuster option. It kind of does feel like they were thinking that they were going to have a Iron Man only game with that extra interface. I'm not sure if that was really on the table. You could probably have an Iron Man only game, Lego game, if you decided to go with the deep dives and get a bunch of stories that were based on like Iron Man comics compared to just doing what was in the cinematic universe. And I think that is one of the beauties of the DC Lego games, is since they don't really have a DC cinematic universe, or at least they didn't until they tried to have one and then pretty much gave up on that because it didn't really succeed. I mean, I suppose they still are somewhat trying to do something there, but I question how long they will keep trying. That allowed the Lego Batman 3 game to basically bring in almost every weird and ridiculous DC character you'd ever heard of, including Kevin Smith, who's I think actually in a DC comic, but he's really just a DC comic fanboy. Alright, well, we fixed something there, but I didn't do enough. So there's other things. This is kind of a great example of the problems with being able to fly around in a lot of the flatter, more tightly constricted areas in LEGO games. And then it really goes to show how you can never really make a full fly around game. And that's not just LEGO games, that's also true for pretty much any video game. Unless you're making a flight sim, having the ability to fly around is going to be problematic. Even things like Star Fox or Panzer Dragoon are on rails. You don't just fly around completely. Alright, well, perhaps this guy is supposed to stand on this, and then this guy. Nope, apparently I was just supposed to pump it multiple times. And then you just get an awkward jump, which really goes to show how unfinished that section was.
Dr. Helen Cho's research into cellular regeneration is second to none. Her latest creation, located at the Eugene Genetics Lab, is known as the Cradle, which is apparently capable of synthesizing and repairing damaged human tissue. By the way, the image that you're seeing is a Eugene Genetics truck, not the Cradle. They kind of look a little different. If Ultron got his hands on the Cradle, then there's no telling what he might be planning to do with it.
So that doctor who was speaking Korean was introduced because she has some ability to make synthetic flesh. Ultron's going to use that technology to create a body, a human-like body. Although, I don't know why Ultron would specifically want a synthetic body. Like, the one thing he would possibly want a synthetic body for is to procreate. And that didn't seem to be part of his plan.
So what does he want?
That's kind of a funny visual gag.
Better than us.
They need to evolve.
That's an interesting Lego butterfly, but I've never seen a butterfly in Lego like that.
We're uploading your cerebral matrix.
Now, I can read him. He's dreaming.
And that's a funny visual gag.
You're a madman.
There's incoming. Guys! We have to move.
So Ultron makes a copy of himself that's synthetic, and I guess that's how you get to Vision. And
2 minutes. Stay close.
then you run into, I guess, Vision needing to be synthetic for some reason later on.
Stop it.
Is this going to be an on-rails section where you're driving a motorcycle, or are we just going to get this scene? It was a nice action scene in the show shown again as a Lego version.
Captain Rogers, do you read me? Romanoff should be tailing you with your shield. Continue to engage Ultron. And Cap, try to avoid explosions. That gem could level the city.
The Lego Star Wars games did have a secondary style of game in vehicle missions that they had a different player, a different company making the level mission, the vehicle missions in. I can't jump up here unless I'm supposed to do something like that. This feels very much on rails and feels very pointless because there's nothing you can do. It really feels once again unfinished. And in all fairness, I would say everybody pretty much hated the vehicle missions in LEGO Star Wars. But it did have the ability of spreading out the number of levels and changing the levels, the number of levels, and the style of levels you play. You'd never do 2 standard LEGO levels in a row and then end up with a 3rd standard level. You'd always have some kind of race, some kind of vehicle mission, something that was mindless and kind of boring, but different nonetheless. Whereas this game has had only 1 other vehicle mission, and it was really only a fraction of a mission. And mostly this is just riding on top of the train again. And there's like nothing she can do. Like, B honks the horn, Y switches, A does this. So I'd have to hit A and X to even start to get the kind of obvious auto targeting to hit anything. But there's no cars that she can shoot at. There's nothing that she can break, because these are all just civilian cars. Maybe I could break a taxi. And if you kind of do nothing, you still end up succeeding. Maybe at this point I'm supposed to shoot and help. Yeah. So there really was only one thing that they programmed her able to do for that whole sequence. And then they immediately teleported you back behind the truck because they can't abide you being in front of the truck. And you're still just tapping X to do damage. There's nothing else to this. It's a bad boss fight. There's no real pattern or trick you have to learn. There's no Lego thing you need to build to potentially target people. It seems like there might be something in the background of the scene that you might be able to track, throw a shield at, but I don't know if that would actually be ever possible. And you can tell this is incredibly lazy, and that it's just cycling the same 2 meters or so of street over and over again. As if the cars were just driving in a very tight circle, or they were moving way slower than they look like they're moving. I can move right off the right side of the screen. I don't even know where I am. The camera is all over the place, and it's not like the right stick adjusts the camera in LEGO games. So they had to design it because Black Widow couldn't be on top of the truck, just because that's not how the story went. So she now has to be on the screen even though she's not contributing at all. And all I'm doing is pressing QuickTime events again, doing the exact same pattern. We've seen way too much of that. I guess I might have been able to just throw something. Yeah, the only thing I could think that could go wrong here would be we get into the open world section and we find out that that is really short also. If that becomes the case, then the recommendation that I would have made if I was designing this game, which is to eliminate a lot of these QuickTime events and a lot of the repetitive stuff, and just speed up the game might have been a bad idea. But I don't think that's the case. I think even if this boiled down to like a 10-hour LEGO game, if it was good quality, I don't think anybody's going to complain. Particularly since you're talking about a kid's game. Kids aren't going to complain about the game being too short. They'll keep on playing after they've collected every single collectible if they like the characters. And you could try to put in some mini games, certainly. We haven't ever seen a lot of those attempted. But yeah, putting in some mini games to potentially allow a kid to keep on playing. So this is Korea? I have no idea why they would have set it in Korea. I don't know if this doctor character was a character from the Marvel universe and she was Korean and they were just honoring that because they didn't want to get accused of whitewashing a character, which I think they probably already had been accused of that in a few places.
Can you stop this thing?
But it might also have been that this was an attempt to appeal to the Asian markets, although most of the Asian markets generally just boils down to the Chinese markets. And yeah, the Marvel movies, of the ones that have been allowed to be aired by the Chinese government, did, I think, do particularly well for quite a while in China until they said no more superhero movies or fewer superhero movies. We want traditional Chinese stories, which basically boils down to they want Chinese-made movies telling stories of famous Chinese novels, of which there's basically only a couple that you'd even recognize, like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, or Romance of the 12 Kingdoms, or whatever it is called. That story gets told over and over again in China, and it's kind of ridiculous and frankly pathetic. It's not a terrible story in the iterations I've seen. You have things like Dragon Ball even being slightly inspired by it, but you can't just tell the same story over and over again, otherwise you end up having something that's the equivalent of a Christian bookstore where every single book is just repeating what the Bible says. So I guess Wanda is fighting on our side at the moment. And you can see her red flames of power are fairly long as far as how much influence you can do. She's doing like a field of attack that is very, very far. I think Wanda is kind of introduced as a too powerful character, so of course you have that problem with like Doctor Strange too, where the second generation, although I'd almost say Wanda was first generation of the Marvel heroes, but the second generation of heroes too are just getting way more powerful, and there's just a huge power creep there, and it's gonna be fairly impossible for them to tell a story like Daredevil, a blind guy who knows karate, or even Spider-Man at a certain point is underpowered compared to a lot of characters. This is just the train section again, and the first train section wasn't that good. I don't know if there really was a train section in Age of Ultron, since I didn't watch it. I caught the last 20 minutes of it, and I think that was pretty much all you needed to see. I'd be very interested in seeing like a fan cut of all the Marvel movies up to Endgame, and just see what people would think could be left on the cutting room floor. Could you get it down to a reasonable 6 hours out of what is probably 20 hours of footage? Or would a lot of the conversation and the character building just get left on the cutting room floor. There is a big difference between a comic book and a TV and a movie, in the fact that comic books kind of are extremely word heavy. They are books first and foremost, and while you can have a nice action panel in a comic book, that one action panel has to effectively represent what would have been 20 minutes of fighting in a movie. Where a movie, it can just be action all the time, show don't tell, as inherently why there are some stories that are better suited to be books or comic books or you know, even comic strips compared to movies or TV shows. TV shows are, I think, closer to the idea of comic books in the fact that you have 22 minutes an episode, if it's a 30-minute show, to grow a character and do it on a weekly basis, where you can have a lot more downtime and conversation, where movies need to get from the beginning to the middle to the end in less than 2 hours. It's kind of funny that movies in general haven't become just the Cliff's Notes guide or the abridged versions of TV shows. Because, yeah, I could see that. Although I guess there are a couple of TV shows that have taken movies and expanded on them. The Hannibal TV series, for instance, did that. They turned what would have been the events of 2 or 3 of the Hannibal movies, Red Dawn, Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal, and they turned that into a 3-season TV series. And it's pretty easy to die and fall off the edge. There's a Fargo TV series, but there is also, I guess, a theme there. There's another glitch there I just noticed with the video. But I had always kind of seen that the LEGO engine seems to have a problem loading video and playing it back.
Talking about Stark's not crazy. We're mad scientists. We're monsters, buddy.
You want me to help you put Jarvis into this thing?
No, of course not. Inside this thing.
So, yeah.
Stark, come in.
They quickly jump over that part of the story.
Anyone on comms?
Yeah, I definitely do feel like the LEGO engine still has a problem playing back the cutscenes. They want us to salvage vehicle parts, that's all I heard. And there can't be too much more here. I mean, I think they have to get to Sokovia unless I'm thinking of a completely different movie. And if it was an idea in the cinematic universe that they were just going to go around causing havoc all over the place, they have barriers magically popping up. Of course, they're made out of Lego, and in this case, it might be better if they weren't made out of Lego, because they then wouldn't give you the idea that you might be able to break them and continue. I wouldn't particularly pick Korea as your next place to have a major catastrophe where a supervillain destroys a place, unless you're intentionally trying to get away from what they did in Avengers 1 and they wanted to create a place that wasn't inherently devastated by terrorism. Although, in all fairness, I don't think Korea would be the right pick even in that case. Like, there really is no good place, and that's why they eventually got to Sarkovia, a made-up country. I'm just running around breaking things, playing the standard Lego style. Let's play as Quicksilver. You can see. You can see he does move faster, which would be interesting, but he moves fast enough that it makes it a little bit unstable as far as how you actually want to control. He seems to overshoot locations and cause a bit of trouble. Alright. Here we have Captain America. And this looks like this might be something, but I don't know how you'd get up there. Like, that looks like that might transform into something else. And do I have anything I can break or hit? Like, who has a magical ability to scan? Does the Captain America shield sync up with that? Nope. I'm not supposed to just beat people up, am I? Once the game is just really failing to tell me what I'm supposed to do. I think it is also worth mentioning, you've got a lot of blonde-haired Lego people, and when it comes to Lego people, if Lego is representing specific people, specific races, they will give them a tan, peach skin tone for white people, effectively. I guess Asians also would probably have that same skin tone, but it's kind of a hard sell to see so many people with brown and blonde hair and say these are Koreans, unless this was a bus of tourists from around the world. Which inherently, that's another problem with a Lego game setting itself outside of the Western world. But I guess that might be this fault of the story people. Alright, so I can get up here, but there's no way that bounces. That bounces me all the way up to that point. Is there some ability? Let's see. We have X, which lets him target. Okay, so he can target things, and that can get him to go and grab like a hot dog. Is there something in here? Oh, that's where it was. The game desperately needs to point out these kinds of things. Oh, after a while. We can Wanda now control this guy. How do I prompt? There we go. And in the Batman game, this was a character that the Riddler could control people. I think. I don't even know why the Riddler was the person that had the ability to control people's minds, but he did. Alright, so then we have to hit B again to open the doors. So I guess the idea was that that person was panicking. Here you have a super accelerated Lego build section. Like, there's another one of him. The game glitched. That shouldn't be him. There shouldn't be two of them. The game is totally glitched, and now there are two versions of Quicksilver. Let's see. Oh no, it does make clones of them. Interesting. He stood on that circle and he waved his hand, and that did nothing. No, it dropped all of these. Since he doesn't build Lego bits that much faster. Maybe a little bit faster. I feel like when you teleport out of Quicksilver, his ability to make clones of himself, which is kind of an amazing ability that I wouldn't have thought a Lego game would have let you do, and I'm not even sure he did that in the movie. I think all those clones should probably disappear at that point because you're potentially overpowering the game with too many people in a scene. Even though, in all fairness, most of the people here are running a very, very basic algorithm of just run from point A, predefined point A to predefined point B. Alright. So we need somebody else to drop some other piece of the satellite, is what I think is going on here. Yeah, they're trying to make this Lego-y and have us do the standard Lego stuff, but it is worth mentioning we have just been stuck for about 10 minutes in a intersection. And I'd just like the game to move on. Alright, so we're gonna use Quicksilver's ability, which, how do you use this? I think you have to hit B. Alright, you hit B, then type X, and then that shoots him up and over. But I don't think he can run smash that. This feels like another one of those sequences where if you fall down, you're gonna be in trouble. That he's all diagonal there for a second. There's definitely a problem in that there needed to be some guide studs to show that was what was going to happen, or a special path of Lego bricks to show that, yeah, he's going to run up that way. Interesting, it always kind of leans him at this diagonal route. I just want to get close enough to break whatever I need to break to go up a rope, which that's the first time we've done that. And see, that's kind of the problem with these with him moving so fast, is that you don't have that ability to move cautiously. Yeah, I'm uncertain where I'm supposed to go at this point. I don't think it's further to the background. When he gets up here, he's upside down, running upside down. If I was to... Maybe I'm supposed to go this direction? Is there something far over there that's collectible? Well, there is, but I'm not sure that that is the thing. No, I missed the thing. So, attempt number 4. Come over here. Now we're supposed to have rebuilt a thing here, which makes a shortcut, which then that felt like a shortcut that really needed to automatically rebuild. We haven't seen a lot of Lego ladders either. You know, Wanda's doing a crawl. You can definitely tell that a lot of these elements were added in the Lego Batman games. But I kind of also feel like the Lego Batman games are basically a whole generation behind this game. And then she just rips out the whole thing for pieces. Okay. And the Lego wires sticking up, which, yeah, I don't know if that Lego actually makes any pieces like that. Can she control it? Or do we need Captain America? We probably need Captain America. So where is Captain America? Over here. Just another incredibly long level. And that's without trying to get any of the collectibles. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see hour to 2 hour long playthroughs if the collectibles are actually in the story levels. And I imagine some of them are, if not most of them. I know there's also a ton of collectibles in the open world section, at least the Manhattan section. Now they have an Avengers Quinjet. So it seems like we'll probably have 2 billion studs by the time we get into the open world section. There clearly is going to be at least one big boss battle after this point. But I think that's pretty much it. We could get a general idea if you look at the characters, the latest characters that have been unlocked. Yeah, there probably is only 1 or 2 more levels based on those positions, and then there will be just a ton of characters that unlock through other ways. I still feel like you are at most 5% better doing the Age of Ultron levels compared to doing the Avengers level, but that percentage in my mind is quickly going down and down and down, because while we are getting levels that feel more Lego-y, they still feel extremely rushed and not fleshed out, and not like they are good Lego levels. Perhaps we've just hit a saturation point in general, and there just are no more good Lego levels to make because this concept in totality has just been played out. I don't know, but yeah, this still is rating below average, but maybe we'll find a lot of fun in the open world, and maybe we won't. Maybe I'll remember that I'm kind of burned out on doing all the grinding that is associated with LEGO games running around the open world. We'll just have to wait and see. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.